Hey, how you going? I'm here with Dan. Dan knows his shit about kangaroo paw, and he sent me a message saying that he can basically know how to cut them. So I thought I'd get him to show you instead of just messaging each other. But how you going, Dan?
How you going?
Welcome. We better.
Stop mucking around.
So before we start, I just thought for the people, because they're watching, that I'd make sure that you know your shit. So I just need you to tell me which one of these is a kangaroo paw.
Trick question. They're both kangaroo paws.
Bloody hell. So he knows his shit. So we'll get into it. So why am I killing my kangaroo paw to start off with?
Well, it depends. One of the main problems that a lot of people run into is from overhead watering. So kangaroo paws can be quite susceptible to fungal diseases such as ink spot, and that will mainly
so they get little tattoos on them.
Yeah, basically. You'll see like they'll get like a black dot and kind of go kind of blackish at the base.
Yeah.
And a common kangaroo paws that gets are the Mangalesia, the red and green kangaroo paw.
Yeah.
And also the Macropedia, the black kangaroo paw.
Okay.
They're quite
I've
prone
murdered
to
a
it.
few of those ones. So that's probably what happened.
Yeah. And they tend to have those two kangaroo paws tend to have quite a soft leaf.
Yeah.
So that's how.
So you suggest when you're watering a kangaroo paw to either have like a drip sprinkler underneath, or just water at the base? Or?
Yeah, ultimately, if you are able to, a nice trickle system.
Yeah.
There's many benefits to having a trickle system in your garden, but also just instead of like if you're hand watering, instead of getting all over the foliage, getting it around the base.
Yeah.
Rather than on the leaves. Also plant depth as well, and your mulch around your kangaroo paws. You don't want to have your the level of the soil in the pot. You don't want to have that below the soil level in your garden.
All right.
Having that level, or if it's deep, half a centimetre at the most.
Yeah.
Is the depth that you can really go to. And
you don't want the leaf going kind of up here somewhere. Just cranking it.
And saying if you're spreading mulch around them, try to avoid mulch accumulating at the base. Because that's holding moisture up against the base there. So
we're chucking little holes around the kangaroo paw when you put them in the mulch itself. So
just back up. I mean, you don't have to have like a massive like ring. Yeah. But don't have use your common sense and don't have it like right up against it like a council garden,
Yeah. See some of that.
However, these varieties, these can handle a little bit of overhead watering. So if you've got overhead sprinklers, these cultivars that you get from Bunnings or other nurseries.
Take that, Bunnings, you bastard. I did get these from Bunnings, so I can't give you too much shit.
Most of these cultivars are bred using the Anaxanthus flavidus,
right?
Which is like your tall
yellow.
That's got like that thicker green leaf that we see here, and that can handle like if you've got overhead sprayers in your garden.
Yeah.
So if you can't accommodate a trickle system, you can't avoid it, and you've got overhead sprinklers, go for one of these hardier varieties, cultivars. You got like they name them like tall yellow or tall red, and things like that. The cultivars I'd probably be a bit more wary of are like you got the new purple one.
Oh yeah, the
Masquerade, I think it is.
Yeah, that's the Kings Park one, isn't it?
Yeah, they're all for Kings Park.
That's true.
Yeah, so...
Apart from if you steal it from the bush, of course. The rest of yeah.
So those kind of blue, purpley ones, I think they breed from a species called Anaxanthus viridis, which is the green kangaroo paw.
Okay, yeah.
That as well has quite a soft leaf.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't particularly do well with overhead watering as well. So those cultivars, I'd probably just be give them a go by all means. But
I've already murdered one of them, so yeah. Nah.
Yeah. So those cultivars, I'd probably just give them a little bit of special attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like with any plant, that first watering is really crucial.
Yeah.
You want to get rid of any oxygen in the soil, and then watering thereafter. You know, through summer, you probably want to hand water these. You know, maybe once or twice a week.
Okay. So probably not the daily watering I was doing.
Twice a day.
Just in the morning. Have a little drink, mate. Don't die on me.
Yeah, well, just like
as it drowns.
As we mentioned before, watering around that root base rather than on the foliage, and giving it a deep water rather than a quick splash, because you want to be sending those roots down into the cooler parts of the soil.
Okay.
Which is the same for any plant. If you want longevity in your garden, give it deep watering. Watering is really overlooked in gardening, I think. Like, it sounds so basic, but like when I was working at Kings Park, if there was someone who was a good waterer, we're just like, man, get him to water in your patch, because he does a really good job. And it was like, it's a fine art. Yeah. Even like, we ended up, like, all the horticulturists got these long kind of rods with like the rose end. Okay. And click onto your hose. Yeah. They're perfect for kangaroo.
You're talking about like the metal ones that look like a shower head on there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you can stand and get that rose head right close to the soil. Yeah. And be quite direct and intentional with your watering. Yeah. And it's a nice kind of even drench. That's
because as blokes we're not very good at aiming, so it's probably better to have it closer.
Yeah, but it depends on the length and thickness of your hose.
So I've been told.
Sometimes it can just uncontrollable, all that pressure.
Oh, it's bloody intense, but yeah. Yeah. Sweet. Maybe we'll get into cutting them. I guess we'll murder these ones and just show you how to cut them properly, if you want.
Well.
So I brought 3 tools. We can either use the hedger, I can get this, or I've got a chainsaw. I thought that was a bit extreme though, so I just might put that one down there. Or we got these. Which one are you feeling?
So I've got a pair of secateurs in my car.
Alright, we'll go grab your secateurs. So how do we cut one of these bad boys?
So, in my opinion, these are probably a bit too young to be pruned.
Yeah.
However,
and they're in flower and colour and all that
sort of stuff. for demonstration purposes.
Yeah. It's alright, I'm just going to edit that out, just have you cutting these going, this is how you do
it. With like screaming murder music in the background. So, these flowers are probably getting a little bit old. Yeah. Well, older than these new ones coming. So a great way to promote more flowers is to remove the dead or dying flowers. Right. So we can just take this back as far as we can. So right near the base.
Sweet.
Like that.
So you're pruning basically into the growth section, but it's just the flower.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much, without damaging the rest of the
and leaves. You're saying in your message that the other type you actually trim the leaf as well. Is that right?
Well, so these cultivars that like tall reds, all those kind of vigorous,
Fancy ones.
big ones. Yeah. So they can be base cut every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And they can get quite big, as probably many people see. Especially like in open public spaces where they've got plantings of them.
Yeah.
They can be quite a large clump. And you can go through and even divide those.
Yeah.
And give them a nice base cut.
Cool. I was going to grab you one of those, but
dig one up out of someone's yard.
Just go out there somewhere and find one, but apparently that's illegal, so we probably shouldn't. But yeah,
if you really want to understand kangaroo paws more, Stephen Hopper wrote a really good book called Kangaroo Paws and Cat's Paws: The History, and something else in the title.
Yeah.
He wrote a really, really good book about it.
Yeah.
And in that he explains there's almost a divide in the kangaroo paws in how they reproduce.
Yeah.
So the flavitis, which I mentioned before, that you get these thicker green leaves from, they kind of more rely on the spreading of their tubers underground.
Yeah.
Whereas the red and green kangaroo paw prefers to seed.
Okay.
That's how they reproduce the best.
Where's the seed come out? Is it the little pods on them? Or?
Yeah, so just like any
question.
I'm about to like really go nerdy and crazy about. So on each stalk you have like a.
We'll go closer to the camera.
Yeah, let's do it. So pretty much just like any flower, on the flower stalk we have an arrangement of individual flowers. So on each flower, as you can see, we've got these pokey things that stick out. The ones that hold the pollen are these ones at the top, which are the anthers, and then this one here is the stigma, so that's the female part of the plant. The anthers are the male part of the plant. So the really cool thing about kangaroo paws, and there's a chance that I'm possibly wrong, but I'm 90% sure of this, is that to prevent cross-pollination, these anthers on each species are arranged differently, so when birds come to pollinate, they get dabbed on the forehead by these anthers.
That's pretty sick.
They get pollen on their forehead, they go off to the next flower. So each species arranges these differently so that pollen isn't going onto the same area of their forehead, and then when they come to get the nectar, which is down in the base of this flower, they're pollinating, getting pollen on the stigma, which is the female part of the flower that receives the pollen. And then over time, some of you probably have seen the bases of these swell up, and that's the ovaries. So when they swell up, that means they've been fertilized, and that's where the seeds are.
Okay.
And as you can see, the kangaroo paws are really colorful, but they don't have a scent. So that's because the main pollinators of these are birds. Birds don't have a sense of smell, so there's no reason really for, birds may have a, I'm not a biologist.
You never know.
But as far as I know,
maybe birds just have like no smell though. The light no smell mask.
As far as I know, birds don't care about smell. They're a very visual orientated animal.
I had a good chat to a kookaburra the other day about smell, and they loved it. But anyway, carry on.
So that's why they produce these colours, so that they attract birds and not so much insects. So
if you're planting these for bees, you're probably planting the wrong plant, is the thing, or bees still come to them?
Well, you need to think holistically, like, you know, have all the animals, don't just focus on one. Yeah.
No, I'm all about the birds, it's fine.
Well, you know, they say you can't have the birds without the bees.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's just some poor bird on their own.
just working away. 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Gets home, family screams at her.
So yeah, that's anyway. So that's the cool thing about kangaroo paws, is that they are very specific on how they get pollinated, and even like you might have seen the cat's paws, which are quite low growing.
Yeah.
So in Stephen's book, he talks about how kangaroo paws in different areas cater for the habit of these birds and how they prefer to feed.
Yeah.
So the cat paws attract the birds that don't mind hopping along the sand and getting a feed, whereas the taller varieties, like the flavitus and that, they aim for the birds that don't like being on the ground at all.
Yeah.
They prefer to be away from predators. That's why they've got the long stalks.
So they're both going for different stuff. That's what I like about the Australian plants. They always they know what they're trying to grab.
Dude, it's
insane.
It's a crazy rabbit hole. Right.
Yes. No, the insects and stuff that it attracts is bloody insane. The more you read about it, the more it freaks my mind out a bit.
Did you want me to talk a bit more about planting?
Yeah.
So, with planting, it's you don't need to tickle the roots. You don't. Well, I personally don't. It can add a bit of stress. Sure enough, if you're planting in a confined area and you've got roots and pipes and whatever, you know, I've kind of cut a slither out to cater for the root.
So is that just with kangaroo paw, or is that with all plants? You don't really need to be particular?
Pretty much all natives. I don't really bother so much with tickling.
Okay.
I mean, I'm super ticklish.
I
hate being tickled. I've headbutted a guy, in a workplace, because he tickled me.
But that's fair enough. Blokes are walking around tickling you. That deserves a little bit of a headbutting action.
But their roots can be quite robust.
He wasn't trying to plant you though, was he?
So kangaroo paws, their roots can be quite robust.
Yeah.
And you'll see in nurseries, the pots will almost be bulging sometimes, even especially at the bottom. So it's good to give them a bit of a squeeze, and then I get my thumb right in the center of the pot and give it a bit of a knead, while also holding the soil around the top of the root ball.
Yeah.
And then just comes off.
Oh, voila, buddy.
Yeah. So that's really nice. That's just what you want.
Just holding back my tickle hand.
Well, you selected this one really well. This is quite a good specimen.
Yeah, it's not root bound, which usually Bunnings is.
Well, I know you usually go to the discount area.
Yeah,
that's where they'll be bulging right out
in the bins.
So that's the only time where I'll do some sort of damage to the roots is if you got roots coming out.
Okay.
By all means, cut those roots.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I suppose when you think about it, it is kind of stressing the plant out, isn't it? If you're cutting off bits on the bottom of it.
And then as well, by pulling all this stuff out, you're creating more area for oxygen to get trapped when you put it in the soil.
Okay, yeah.
Oxygen burns roots.
Yeah.
So that's why we give it a really good deep watering, is to eliminate that oxygen in the soil.
So definitely no scuba tanks for plants. Not a good idea.
Nah, no snorkels. But Yeah, so when it goes into the ground, as I mentioned before, keep it level. Hopefully no.
just contaminating. It's alright.
So
maybe go that way a little bit.
So that's that surrounding soil really needs to be level.
Okay.
It can be a tiny bit deeper, but 5 mil at the most.
Yeah.
And I usually give a handful of native slow release fertilizer. When I say a handful, just like kind of fill it up in your palm.
Yeah.
It's about
Depends
the same
on hand size, I suppose.
Yeah.
If you're a gorilla, it's smaller than a handful.
Well, if you're not like a Gen Zer or youngin.
Yeah.
If you remember the Kodak film canisters.
Yeah.
About that amount of fertilizer.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, slow release fertilizer in the bottom or even half fill and around. That'll keep them going for as long as the label says.
Yeah, but so once it runs out from whatever the label says, you basically just re-put it on the top again? Or?
No, so poke a hole with your finger.
Yeah.
And you could do like 3 around the base and just give it
just load it up a bit.
Yeah, that's a good summer job to do.
Yeah.
Every year if you notice your plants are looking a little bit tired, give it a bit of that.
Yeah.
But I can't recommend Stephen Hopper's book enough because it will blow your mind.
I'm gonna have to give it a read. Yeah. I'm always looking for like books and stuff to look into.
Yeah, he even talks about how the different varieties recover after a fire.
Yeah.
Things like that, and he spent like weeks out at like some cemetery in Canterbury just like watching birds feeding on kangaroo paws. Yeah.
That's what I like about books. It's kind of like you get those guys that are going out and that's all they do. That's their whole life is this thing, and then they put it in a book and then you just instantly get that knowledge. Like you don't have to go and sit and watch birds and shit. You just know it. Which I'll definitely have to check it out. But.
Yeah, that's the thing about the botanical world is that there's a whole group of people out there dedicating their lives to something they won't even get paid for. Like I remember hearing about this one guy who was so sure that there were subspecies of the mulga wattle.
Okay, yeah.
Acacia neura.
Yeah.
They all had these different leaf forms, and he was like, "No, I got to prove that there's different species, different species of this." And he spent most of his life kind of putting together all this stuff for the herbarium to prove that these are different species.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Cool. It's been good chatting to you. I could chat all day about all the different plants and stuff. It's
absolutely.
Might have to get you on again later on. But do you want to give yourself a plug for your business?
Yeah, Dan's Outdoor Services. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I also do beekeeping. I've got a beekeeping Instagram. Mandra Bee Removals.
Yeah.
I haven't been on it in a while.
All right.
Because I've been focused on the business and I got a 9-month-old boy. So
got to crank into the business then. Sick. I'll check both those out. And thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Joe.
You.